Thursday, the 26th of January, 2012. There are only two things you need to know about relationships. Men are stupid and women are crazy. And the reason women are crazy is because men are stupid. Attributed to George Carlin, and brilliantly succinct. And I couldn't have put it any better myself. It's 2 a.m. and I can't sleep. Not tired at all, just lay there in bed and recall the episode where I was pickpocketed by a prostitute. Not your everyday experience, but I can laugh about it now. At least a small bit, anyway. At the time, I had been living in a small two-bed terraced house near the Chemic pub in Leeds, sharing it with a very nice young gentleman, tall guy with foppy hair and talented musician. He saw the state I was in, writing suicide poems and beating myself up over splitting up with my now wife and then girlfriend. I was obviously going through a tough time in my love life, and he tried to help me out by organising to send me down to a friend of his, a composer, who lived in Finsbury Park in London. So, on the pretext of doing some accounts work for him, their plan was for me to have a few days' break. Upon further reflection, it was a shame that I was unable or unwilling to appreciate what this composer chap had been saying to me back then. I liked his manner, but I was suspicious of his intentions. He was something of an enigma. He boasted an unrivaled collection of Doctor Who videos and happened to introduce me to the music of Radiohead. I had never heard of them before, and they were setting the indie chart alight, breaking through into the mainstream pop charts. I still enjoy listening to them to this day. They had an original sound and would go on to be absolutely massive. Indeed, had I not been so paranoid and vulnerable, then I might have actually listened to him, particularly what he was telling me about the people who lived on the Millionaire's Row. The company directors, the bondholders, the shareholders and power brokers living in those four-storey terraced houses with the high railings which we walked past on the way home from the pub one night. He explained how they were effectively controlling the lives of the likes of me and you, by having a say in the decisions made by banks, businesses and corporations who affect our everyday lives. If I had listened to him, life might have taken another twist altogether. The notion had seemed so preposterous to me back then. I was young, and I was buying into the illusion of being free. I have since arrived at the conclusion that he was correct, and although I would have a general interest in Greenpeace or Amnesty International, I was never a political activist of any persuasion on the front lines of any protests. Such is the fickle fortune of fate. Anyway, I returned from London with renewed confidence and had taken up a tough sales job, which involved going around to lots of places with a huge black hold-all full of merchandise slung over my shoulder. It was a long hard day and a great apprenticeship into the world of business, cutting deals here and there with whomever. All those places where people congregated were the places to be, in order to sell the stuff I had. It was probably either knocked off or surplus to order from somewhere. Ask no questions, get no lies. Watches, books, pens and gifts, cheap stuff. Thus, I went to laundrettes, mechanics' yards, factories, and in the afternoon, pubs and clubs, shooting from the hip with the lyric. Long before programs like Alan Sugar's Apprentice, the guys I worked with and I were walking the walk and talking the talk. Sharp as a dart and quick as you like with the chat. I was often accused of having the gift of the gab, as they say. A fast talker and a fast runner, it was a good opportunity to cut my teeth at the coalface of business, like a Del boy, wheeling and dealing all over the streets of Leeds. The job suited me. However, there was no getting away from the fact that the job had negative connotations. It was commission only, there was no job security, no salary, no pension, and a dodgy company to work for. Don't mention the taxman. The rule of thumb in the pubs was to approach the hardest looking motherfucker in there, and if they bought from you, sheep factor would dictate that others would follow suit. If they didn't, then at least it was worth a try. What was there to lose? They could only smack you on the nose and rob all your stuff. There were lots of busy pubs in the daytime in Leeds, and if you played it right, you would be able to call in twice a week and have different stuff each time, always making sure it was cool with the proprietor first, where possible, in order to avoid an embarrassing ejaculation. Which reminds me, back to the hooker. So I was resitting my finals at the time, and I was on the rock and roll. And if I woke up skint, I would go into work, and if I woke up and didn't need the money, I would lie back in the scratcher and skin up. Rightly or wrongly, that was the way it was back then. So it was nearly 5 in the evening, and I was absolutely shattered. It had taken me 8 hours to earn 30 quid in commissions from selling the merchandise, and it had been a long hard day. A watch for say £2 would earn me around 70p in commission. £1.30 of that £2 would then go back to the organisation. So for example, if I sold 3 for a fiver, the discount for the punter would come directly out of my commissions. It was a tough job, but as I say, a good apprenticeship in becoming streetwise, especially for a kid who had gone straight from school to university with no experience in the big wide world. As I crossed the road to where I would catch my bus near the corn exchange, this really fit-looking bird latched onto me. A bit taken aback, but quickly disarmed by her smiles and curves, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. She assured me we could go back to hers, or mine, for a good time, and a quick look at the reflection of a bus shelter window confirmed that I did indeed look very handsome in my suit. But there was something not quite right. And that was the unusual strength that she had, as she practically frog-marched me with her arm powerfully locked into mine as we approached the bus stop. Rather than shaking her off and causing a scene, I wondered what would happen if we did indeed go back to mine. Would she shag my brains out in the bedroom? Would we do it in the kitchen? Was this going to be my future wife? All relationships kind of start with a one-night stand, right? I'd never paid for sex before and didn't really cop that she was a hooker until afterwards, by which time it was too late. I just thought that she was extremely fit, both in the physical and the attractive sense. My ego had allowed me to believe that I'd actually pulled her without as much as buying her a drink, or as even having a chat. And as my mind wandered off into this dream world, she suddenly declared that she'd changed her mind, or left a purse, or something, and that she would be back in a minute. Of course, she then disappeared. Well, I don't know how long it was before the penny dropped, but before long one thing was for sure: this babe was definitely not coming back, and it had all happened so quickly, so fast, that I reckon it must have taken me a good minute or so to recount exactly what had happened and replay the events all over again in my head. She locked my arms, then grabbed my belt with her other hand, then slipped her top 2 fingers down into my pocket. Shite. I checked the notes in my back pocket. A 20 and a 10. A brown one and a purple one. Gone. Shit. How could I have been so stupid? I looked around for her and ran back across the road to my office, and where I attempted to ring the police, before realising that they obviously wouldn't give a monkeys either. What a complete and utter idiot. Then, as I crossed the road again to board my bus, deflated and dejected that my hard-earned had been grifted from me, I laughed out loud and shook my head in disbelief that I'd been stung so easily. In a way, I had to begrudgingly admire the girl. She had earned in 30 seconds what it had taken me 8 hours to make. So despite being a thieving bitch, she was obviously much smarter than I. The skill and precision with which she had operated left me in no doubt that she was a professional con artist, and probably forced into it by a drug addiction, pimp, or both. I tell you one thing: for as long as I live, after that episode, I'll never ever believe that a girl fancies me. A healthy degree of suspicion with regard to fit-looking birds will always prevail. Actually, upon further reflection, I suppose 30 quid was not that much to pay for such a harsh lesson. Cold turkey status report: 17 days. Not that I'm counting, of course.